A world where survival was never guaranteed. Imagine waking up every morning knowing that today could be the day you die. Not from old age, but from hunger, infection, violence, or sheer bad luck. In the Middle Ages, this was not paranoia. It was reality. Death did not wait politely at the end of life. It stood beside the cradle, hovered over the dinner table, walked the streets, and slept in every bed. For medieval people, survival was not assumed. It was temporary. We often picture the Middle Ages as a time of castles, knights, and honor. But beneath that romantic surface was a world soaked in blood, filth, fear, and suffering. People died young, not because they were weak, but because the world itself was designed to kill them. This is the brutal truth of why medieval lives were so short. Birth. Life began on the edge of death. In the Middle Ages, being born was the first gamble with death. Childbirth was terrifying. There were no hospitals, no sterile tools, no trained doctors for most people. Women gave birth at home, surrounded by midwives who relied on tradition, not science. If something went wrong, and often it did, there was nothing anyone could do. Many women died from massive bleeding infection, obstructed labor, retained placenta. For the baby's survival was even less certain. Infant mortality was horrifyingly high. Some estimates suggest up to half of all children died before the age of 5. Many died within days or weeks of birth. Infection, exposure to cold, malnutrition, and birth defects claimed lives silently. Parents learned not to get attached too early. In some communities, babies were not named immediately, a quiet acknowledgement that many would not live long enough to need one. Death stood at the cradle. Childhood, a battlefield without armor. Surviving infancy did not mean safety. Childhood in medieval times was a continuous fight against disease. Children played in streets filled with waste. They drank contaminated water. They lived among rats, fleas, and livestock. Diseases that killed children included measles, whooping cough, smallpox, dysentery, tuberculosis. There were no vaccines, no antibiotics, no understanding of germs. Illness spread quickly and violently. A fever could mean death within days. Diarrhea could drain the life from a child in hours. Parents watched helplessly as their children wasted away. By modern standards, medieval childhood was a war zone, and many did not survive it. Filth, cities built for disease. Medieval cities were not just dirty, they were lethal. Streets were narrow and overcrowded. Human waste was thrown out of windows. Animal carcasses rotted in the open air. Garbage piled up where people walked and slept. Rivers served as both. Drinking water. Sewers' clean water was a luxury. Bathing was rare and sometimes discouraged. People believed washing could weaken the body or invite illness. Rats thrived in this environment. Fleas fed on them, and then on humans. Disease spread effortlessly. Cities became slow-moving mass graves. The Black Death, when the world collapsed. Then came the nightmare that redefined death itself. In the mid-14th century, the Black Death tore through Europe like an unstoppable force. Entire towns vanished. Families were erased. Civilization staggered. Symptoms were horrifying. Swollen, blackened lymph nodes, fever and vomiting, internal bleeding. Death within days. People died so fast that there was no time for funerals. Bodies piled up in the streets. Mass graves were dug in desperation. Doctors fled. Priests died giving the last rites. Parents abandoned children. Children wandered alone among corpses. Between 30 and 50% of Europe's population died. For survivors, life was never the same. Death had proven it could take everything. Medicine, help that hurts. If you fell ill in medieval times, seeing a doctor could be a death sentence. Medieval medicine was based on ancient theories about bodily humors. Blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. Illness was believed to be caused by an imbalance. The solution? Remove blood. Bloodletting was used for fever infection, headaches, mental illness. Patients were cut, or leeches were applied until they fainted. Many died from blood loss or infection. Surgery was worse. There was no anesthesia, No pain relief, no sterilization. Patients were held down while surgeons cut into flesh with dirty tools. Screams echoed through the rooms. Shock often killed before the operation ended. Even if you survived surgery, an infection usually followed. Sepsis, unknown and untreated, claimed countless lives days later. Medicine often finishes what illness started. Hunger, the slow execution. Food was never guaranteed. Most medieval people lived as peasants, dependent on harvests. One bad season could doom entire communities. Drought, floods, frost, or war could wipe out crops instantly. The Great Famine of 1315 to 1317 starved millions. People ate grass, bark, and animals meant for labor. Some accounts describe cannibalism. Even in normal years, diets were grim. Bread or porridge, little protein. Few vegetables, almost no vitamins. Malnutrition weakened bodies, slowed healing, and destroyed immune systems. Hunger made the disease deadlier and injuries fatal. Starvation didn't always kill quickly. It drained life slowly, painfully. Work. Bodies used until they broke. From childhood, medieval people worked. Peasants labored in fields for endless hours. Craftsmen inhaled toxic fumes. Miners suffocated underground. Builders fell from scaffolds. There were no safety laws, no medical leave, no compensation. Injuries were common. Broken bones, crushed limbs, deep cuts. Any of these could turn fatal due to infection. If injury didn't kill you, inability to work often did. Poverty meant hunger. Hunger meant death. The body was used until it failed. Violence. Death was public entertainment. The medieval world was brutally violent. Punishments were savage. Hanging, beheading, burning, mutilation executions were public spectacles. Crowds gathered to watch people die. Bandits attacked travelers. Lords abused power. Justice was swift and unforgiving. War was constant. Feudal conflicts, territorial wars, religious crusades, villages were burned, crops destroyed, civilians slaughtered. Disease followed armies like a shadow. Even in peace, violence lingered. Women, lives shortened by expectation. Women faced unique dangers. Repeated pregnancies weakened bodies. Each childbirth risked death. There was no birth control, no pain relief, no emergency care. Women who survived childbirth often died later from infection or exhaustion. Social expectations demanded obedience and silence. Abuse was common. Legal protection was minimal. For many women, life was a cycle of risk, and death came early. Mental illness, fear, not care. Mental illness was not understood. It was feared. People with epilepsy, depression, or psychosis were labeled possessed, cursed witches. They were beaten, imprisoned, exorcised, or executed. The emotional toll of constant death, hunger, and fear destroyed minds. Trauma went untreated. Despair shortened lives just as surely as disease. Life expectancy, a misleading number. People often hear that medieval life expectancy was around 30 to 35 years. This does not mean people dropped dead at 35. It means so many died young that averages were dragged down. Those who survived childhood sometimes lived into their 50s or 60s, but they were the exception. Survival required luck. A world built on death. Medieval people did not die young because they were fragile. They died young because disease ruled unchecked. Hunger stalked constantly. Violence was normalized. Medicine failed sanitation. Poison life. Death was not the end of life. It was part of it. Modern longevity is not natural. It is built on centuries of suffering, and the Middle Ages paid that price in blood. If this dark journey into medieval life disturbed you, like this, subscribe for more brutal history, and comment below which forgotten horror you want uncovered next. Because history is darker than we're taught, and the truth deserves to be told.